So to start off today, we're going to be talking about unleashing the power of employer branding and specifically focusing on using social media to attract top graduate talent. So a little bit about Prospel. We're a global, global careers boards. We have careers boards all over the countries, and we actually work with a lot of universities as well. So we partner with them to help their students get access to jobs all over the world. And that ties into our mission, which is to help every student get the best possible start to their career. So right now, I'd love to introduce you to what we'll be focusing on, which will be all about employer branding. And we're going to be focusing on using social media, which is my area of expertise and what I do at Prospel. And we're going to go into some strategies, case studies, and some steps that we can use to help craft an authentic employer brand. And today, you'll be having the lovely Shek and myself. So my name's Emily. I'm the Global Social Media Manager for Prospel. You may notice me look to the side a little bit. That's because I'm juggling the slides as well. So I have them up here too. So sorry if I'm looking away. And I'll also hand it over to Shek now to introduce himself.
Thanks, Emily. And nice to see you all. Some very familiar faces in the chat as I saw. If I haven't met you yet, I'm Shek. I'm one of the graduate attraction specialists here at Prospel, and yeah, we'll be chatting back and forth with Emily and I, and yeah, helping you go through the crafting a authentic brand on social media. Cool. Well, let's start off the webinar then, and I wanted to start off with something a little bit fun. This might seem for some of you a little bit creative. For some of you, this will be right up your alley. And to start off, I want you to imagine, and some of you can close your eyes if you want to be extra creative. Don't look like a weirdo if you're sitting next to someone at the moment. But I want you to close your eyes if you can, and I want you to imagine having a very strong employer brand, one that's top of mind to many university students, wherever you're based. And just imagine you don't have to worry about low or irrelevant quality applicants because your company is one of those where students just want to know you. And you're trying to get candidates from just a range of backgrounds, and it's no actually issue for you, whether it's hard to find cities or remote areas, whether it's diversity, whether it's university degrees. You don't have to worry about any of it. And the best part, and this is going to be fantastic, just imagine you don't have to worry about candidates even retracting their offers or low retention rate because you have so many candidates that have genuinely applied for the company, not because it was just another graduate job, because they really resonate with your company and your values. That's why they've actually applied. And there is a genuine way to help work towards this. I know it kind of sounds like a dream at the moment, but employer branding is the name of the game. And in particularly, employer branding that we'll be walking through on how to craft. So I'll pass it back over to Emily.
Awesome. Thanks, Shek. So let's start by saying why employer branding, right? Because I mean, that's what we need to dig into first. So employer branding, the reason it's so important is because it goes further than just showcasing the job opportunities. I like to think about it like when you're dating. Let's say, you're walking down the street, you're seeing attractive people everywhere. It's just like browsing through a jobs board or a career page. You're seeing a lot of attractive looking jobs or companies. But then in order to actually start dating someone, you actually need to learn about their values, their culture, what it's actually going to be like to date them, and if you actually want to get into that relationship. And that's where I think employer branding is. It's nice to look at these fancy jobs or these companies that look well from the outside, but actually being able to get a glimpse or an idea of what their culture, their value, what it's like to work with them is so important. And it's really what will help you differentiate yourself from your competitors. And it's also going to help prevent things like, low application rate, candidates going back on their offer. And another reason why employer branding is so important is because students actually start looking for their graduate role before the first year of their university ends. Actually, 18% of students do that. And I wanted to give you a little bit of a scenario just to imagine. So let's say you have company A and company B. So company A, they have you saw their graduate job listing, but you hadn't heard of them previously. And then company B, they've really nailed their employer branding. So you've seen them on social media, you met them at some careers fairs, you've seen their profile on Prospool, and you read their graduate views or their day in the life content. So between the two, which one are you guys going to pick? If you have an opinion, comment. But I think we can all say it's obviously company B. That's what I'm definitely picking. That's what the majority of graduates are picking, because 75% of job seekers actually consider a company's employer branding, so their social media, their website, before deciding to apply with them. Yeah, I can see the company B rolling in. Yep. Awesome. And I just want to pass it over to Shek now to sort of bring us back to past and where we are today as well with traditional employer branding.
Right. So we're going to do something fun. We're going to do a bit of a poll and let's see where everyone's at, right? Because I think a lot of us might have been veterans in this space and we've been here for a while. Some others were fresh to this space and remember traditional employer branding from when we were graduates. So let's do a bit of a poll and I'm going to launch something. Okay. So let me know if everyone can see that. And if you could just start submitting some answers and we'll publish this. Answers are flooding in. Still going up quite quickly, so we'll give it a second. But a lot of us would have experience with this, being out when we were students, having employers come on campus, going and partnering with student societies that we're in, content on sites like Prospool for a lot of you, alongside your own website and then social media too. So that's stopped coming in. So I'll share the results with you all on screen now. And you can see there's some really popular things. So in-person events, a lot of us going through, many of us partnering with student societies. We're online with day in the life stories, content on our website, Prospool, some other in there. And then social media is quite large too. So that's awesome. Well, I'll stop sharing that now. And the reason I brought that up is you could demonstrate employer brand for a ton of different ways. We do it on our jobs, for example, website content, all these things that we've already done. But one of the ones that's less discussed or particularly less, I guess, executed, less because it's quite fresh as well, is social media. And the wide reach and engagement potential it has makes it really, it's a prime channel for reaching out to your target audience and resonating with graduates. So if you jump to the next slide, Emily, you could see that 98% of university students or college students, they're actually using social media on a daily basis. So I have my brother in university, for example. Some of you may have kids, some of you may have siblings, and I'm not sure about everyone, but I can't talk to my brother without his phone being out on the dinner table. And they're using it all the time, but are we present there with their wide reach? And that's something to really think about. And less than 9% of students are searching for opportunities on social media. But from what we've noticed is it's really effective. So it's almost subconscious to them, which is really interesting. And the other part is this is day to day. Have a think about candidates that have actively applied to your organization and what the first thing they're going to do if they get an offer or if they're seriously applying. Not only are they going to see what we're walking around day to day in the marketplace, like Emily was mentioning, but the first thing they're going to do is going to pull up your company profile on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever social media platform it is and have a look into the culture, the values, the work environment, the flexibility. And Emily's sort of displaying some brands that are doing this quite well across different social media platforms, but they're just a few of the companies that are conveying the values well across social media. However, as you all might probably appreciate, it's not just as simple as taking a quick photo and just uploading it and saying that's the values and that's the culture. We have to keep in mind that this generation of university students, they're what I like to say, they're digitally native. They know authentic content and they know something that's very well crafted and I guess, comes across a little bit inauthentic. So we got to be doing it effectively too. So what I'll do is I'll actually pass to Emily to chat through different types of content to be mindful of too.
Thanks, Jack. So I'll just get through a couple more of my examples. And while doing so, I wanted to add that I noticed a lot of people said, we had 80% saying that they did do social media, which I think is amazing because the fact that you guys are already on the platforms is perfect. What would be, what we really want to go into on this and with these examples is to get into some tips on how to do it even better, because from being in the employer marketing space and working with clients, I see a big struggle is the difference between what companies think students will engage with and then what's actually being put out. So hopefully we can help address that today. So I did just kind of go through a bunch of examples there. Those are a bunch of really good examples from different companies. And now I'll chat a little bit about some things to be mindful of, because social media, it can be big and it can be scary. And there are things that we need to take into consideration. So some of the general rules that I like to say is just no negative content, sharing anything that's controversial, offensive. I'm sure we already avoid this, but just doing the double check and thinking about it before we post. The other thing is also engaging with comments and followers. So when we're engaging with comments on platforms like TikTok, for example, or even YouTube or sometimes Instagram Reels, you do get the occasional people that are making a comment that sounds like it's a genuine comment, but it's actually being sarcastic, or they're trying to take a jab. So you have to be mindful of that, because when you're applying to these comments and responding seriously to a sarcastic or joking comment, it can make the company look quite out of touch. And, it just looks a little bit out of touch. And the other thing is that, it can kind of look a little bit awkward, right? If you've responded to a comment and they meant it a completely different way. So comments are really kind of a tricky area to navigate as well. So sometimes if it's too confusing or too challenging, I just recommend to turn off the comments, or actually to just press the like and don't reply. So make sure you engage with your followers, but you don't have to reply to everything, because sometimes it might not be genuine. And the other thing is overly promotional content. So with social media, and this isn't particular to the graduate industry, this is everywhere. A lot of businesses, or anyone nowadays, we want to promote ourselves on social media. That is what social media is for. But in order for people to actually engage with the content and really find it engaging or listen to what's being said, you have to do more than just put out promotional content. You can't put out a piece you can't put out like a video which is just like, oh, apply for our company, we do this, we're the best. That's not enough. You have to pair it with one of the 3 themes of content, which I'm going to get into next, but they are so educational content, inspirational content, and forgot the last one. I'll get to it on the next point. And the other thing is that we want to make sure we include diversity and inclusivity on our posts and our social media content we're putting out. I know that a big target for a lot of us is diversity targets. So for a girl who's in engineering, maybe from a regional area, and she's looking at your social media and all she sees is white men, they all look the same age, they look like there's no big cultural or religious differences or gender differences, it can be quite off-putting, and is probably not going to be somewhere where she goes, hey, I can really see myself fitting in, because frankly she can't. There's no one there that looks like her or is like her. So let's get into the 3 themes of content. So we've got educational content, we've got entertainment and inspirational content. These are actually content pillars that are used all over social media. So whenever you're putting out content, it's great to think about how you can incorporate it into these themes. For example, we actually do the entertainment content a lot on Prosper's social media ourselves. So for example, on TikTok, we like to make interview videos with students, and we'll actually ask them what's the best thing you learned in university? And so that's that's actually entertaining because you're going out there, you're doing these short form interview style clips, which are very trendy on social media right now. And people find them very entertaining because you get to see a variety of like people. You do get the occasional like awkward answers or really funny answers. So people find it entertaining. And then at the same time, we're actually promoting ourselves and we're reaching that student demographic. And at the end, we might even include like a message being like, oh, by the way, did you know you could head to Prosper to look for graduate jobs? So you can get that promotional bit in, but just make sure you're offering something other than just promotion. And no one's going to watch if I go on TikTok and say, hey guys, use Prosper, we have graduate jobs. No one's going to watch that. Another example of like educational content, for example, is you could do a video montage where you're interviewing the graduates, asking them what's the best thing they learned this week and to explain it in 60 seconds. Cut that into a short form video, and that's something that will teach. So if you do it on engineering graduates, that will teach future engineers, and that will also get across your promotional message of, you know, including your company. You can be like, you can have the graduates mention their role, mention the company. You can make sure the office is in the background looking all nice. You can include a short message at the end or in the caption to say, hey, we've got graduate jobs available right now. Make sure you apply. And then inspirational and motivational content. This is a really good one to do with day in the life content. So some of you may already be doing day in the life, like blog posts, but what you could do is like a day in the life video. So you could do a day in the life of a engineering intern at Prosper, and they get to show their amazing start. They get to show their, you know, their free snacks at work. Maybe they get to show their team building day, or maybe they go for lunch with their colleagues and create this really ideal, really show how awesome it is to work within the company. And that's actually inspirational / motivational, because for future engineering students, they're looking at that thinking like, wow, this is going to be my life in the future. I am really excited and I'm going to work hard and achieve this. So that's just a little bit of examples of how you can kind of tie in these three themes of content into what you're putting out on social media. So the other thing that I wanted to show you is what happens when social media isn't done well. And you can see here, these are some negative comments. So it's really important to have an idea of like anything you're putting out on social media. So have an idea of the trends you're using, have an idea of if you're putting out controversial content, because otherwise these are the sort of responses that can come, especially from some of the more controversial platforms like YouTube Shorts is probably one. You've also got TikTok, you've got Instagram Reels. So video content can be a little bit more controversial. So this is what we're trying to help you avoid. And if you do find you get to this stage, I do recommend turning off the comments so that to give yourself time to reset with the social media content, and also prevent anyone from jumping on the bandwagon of certain thoughts. The next thing I want to go over is a couple of the different social media platforms. So I know you all know the social media platforms, but I did want to just do a little poll and see who's on what platforms. So if you could, I think you should be able to raise your hand. There should be a little option to do so. Okay, so if you can just raise your hand on Zoom, it'd be great to see who is on LinkedIn. Oh, okay. Yes, so I think it's a no-brainer for a company to be on LinkedIn, and there's a lot of you on LinkedIn. Wow, okay, that was easily over 100, maybe most of the attendees, most of you guys. Awesome, and let's do, oh, they're still going. Let's do Instagram now. Keep your hand up if you are on Instagram, or lower it if you're not. Wow. All right. Very active on social media. Okay,
Was another
awesome.
100.
Yeah. And let's do Facebook. Quite a lot, quite a lot. All right. Let's do, oh, sorry, I did that twice. Let's do Twitter first. Twitter, I'm not expecting too many, so I'll be surprised.
Yeah, I'm definitely not on Twitter. Maybe I'm ancient.
Okay,
Let's say
not
yes,
as
X. Yeah.
yeah. And TikTok. Let's raise your hands if you're on TikTok. I'm probably not expecting too many on TikTok either. How
40
many is
odd.
that? 40?
40.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So we've got, that's actually that's quite stark. So we've got 44 out of about 300. Wow. All right. And that's actually quite crazy as a large chunk of our demographic are on TikTok. Okay, so I'll do a little run through. I know you guys are already quite familiar with the platform, so I don't want to keep too long on this. And keep in mind, you'll have access to all these slides after, so you can go back to. But just a little refresher. So LinkedIn, that's great for companies if you want to do more of the professional networking. So I think that's great for more of your professional content like job openings, industry insights, company updates. Really keeping it professional. On there, you're going to find most of the students who are quite career driven already. If they're on LinkedIn already, they're probably already looking at companies and graduate jobs and internships. And then Instagram is more of a visual platform. So on Instagram, it's more like stories, showing day in the life contents, culture, events, featuring employees. Twitter is a bit more niche. I don't think many people use Twitter, or like many companies, sorry. So Twitter, it's a bit more for industry discussions. You can share job openings on Twitter and share insights as well. So it's basically like microblogging. That's what we like to call Twitter. And then we've got Facebook. I like to think Facebook is just very versatile, right? You can do so many things: text, photos, videos, links. So that's a wide range of things. You can share the culture, you can share opportunities, you can post photos, you can do lives. And then we've got TikTok, and TikTok is more of the entertaining platform. So definitely more of the short form engaging videos, though you can do carousels now. If anyone knows that, it's like images that slide across. And that's more to showcase like the workplace, any cool perks or just the team in general. And then we've got YouTube. So YouTube is more of our long form content. We've got, I see a lot of office tours, interviews, and, any online events essentially. So what I would like to share is what I deem the platform strategy. I would love to do it all. We actually do all except for Twitter at Prosper, but it's likely going to be very hard, and it's also not essential, right? So what I would say is if you're wanting to focus on social media, but you don't have the capacity to do multiple platforms, these are the ones that I would focus on, because I think they give you the largest mix of different types of graduates and also help you put out, help you show yourself in different kind of ways. So what I mean by that is LinkedIn is the professional platform. So on here, you're going to get the students that are already thinking about where they want to apply to. These are the students that are very career driven. They've probably been on LinkedIn since their first year. They're probably checking it frequently. And it's a very different type of demographic to what you might get on TikTok, for example. So Instagram, on the other hand, is more of I'd say it's like the in-between. Instagram is just great for the visual content. Also, Instagram is a great tool that, graduates can quickly search up your handle and look for your photos, images. They can get a quick snapshot as to what working with you looks like. And a lot of people are actually on Instagram already within this demographic. So Instagram is kind of like the middle one. It's just a broad one. And then TikTok lets you reach the younger and more dynamic crowd. So this is where there are going to be certain people that may be on TikTok but aren't on LinkedIn. You do get the occasional person that is on, both, but I think there are quite different personalities sometimes. So between the three, it's really going to help you reach and target all different types of graduates. You're getting the ones that are super professional. You're getting the ones that are just kind of like, maybe they're professional, maybe they're on LinkedIn, but they're not really actively using it because they found you on Instagram. And then you're getting the ones on TikTok who are just younger, more dynamic. They prefer consuming entertaining content. They probably don't like scrolling on LinkedIn because they find it a little bit too boring. So being able to target them on a fun platform like TikTok is the only way to really do so. So this is what I would recommend if you're wanting to just start out on socials or really focus. And right now, I'm also going to pass you over to Shek, who's going to chat a little bit about how you can actually identify the company values and then amplify them on social media, because this is what you're going to use to decide what to focus on sharing online.
Right. Now, before I jump into it, I'm a bit of a sucker for polls and raising hands, if you can't tell yet. So I want the audience to raise their hand if we have ever done an internal survey, a survey from Prospool that we use for our Top 100 award, the graduate surveys. Put your hand up if you've ever done an internal survey like that with your early careers. 12, 20, 40 now. I think it's slowing down. Okay, around 42 from the looks of it. Okay, so the reason I ask is I appreciate we're all in different sort of spaces within early careers. So there might be those that within the early careers we've developed our graduate value proposition. We look at EVPs all the time, and this is kind of our bread and butter. And then we have others where this is our first time in the market. We're looking to develop something in the early talent space, and we have a rough idea of what we want to do, but we're not quite sure. And so that's why I ask, because I appreciate that through Prospool, you might be sending out a survey to your grads, which are anonymous. You'll get some good bits and not so good bits. And you might also be doing this internally. So that not so good bits section on the right-hand side on this slide, great feedback. For example, this one says company A has high workload. That's great, but that is not the topic for today's talk. What I think would be really beneficial to focus on is the great bits, because the great bits are actually what I've seen has always been unique. It's your culture, it's your environment, it's your company, it's what makes you great in a way. And this is really interesting and good to keep in mind, because what we think is great about us compared to what early careers and grads think is great, there's sometimes a bit of a difference. For example, I might think, yes, we have great flexible working arrangements within our graduate program, but then graduates don't think that. And that's not an alignment. So these anonymous surveys are great if you have them as a resource to actually lean into what you're already doing well. So for example, this company A, you can see they've got a very supportive environment for learning, and they've got flexible working. So if you jump to the next slide, Emily, you can see some of the common ones or trends that we see. Typically, learning and development can be a great opportunity to showcase if your graduates are saying that. Mentorship, career advancement are a couple. And then if you jump to the next slide, Emily, you all can see a couple others, like work-life balance, quite big at the moment within the early career space, making an impact with your work. Some organizations here are a global opportunity. So these are all great things that can show up, but the trick here is we can actually use this. If graduates are saying this is what we do well, they are the target audience, and they're going to be our future cohorts too. So you can look into ideas of content, for example, taking a day in the life video, showcasing impactful work and what that actually looks like, rather than having it as a slogan there that, hey, we have great impactful work, which is a fantastic start. We can actually add another layer to that and have stories and actually show students rather than tell them what we're doing really well. And we know that this has already resonated. So what I'll do is I'll pass over to Emily to chat through a little bit more around using social media to highlight company values, a little bit what I chatted about. She'll walk through some more detailed examples.
Awesome. Thanks, Shek. So I've only picked a couple of values because there's a lot of different ones, and we actually have prepared a PDF guide that we'll send to all of you guys after the webinar once we have the recording ready. And that's actually going to cover all the values and a couple ideas, as well as links to specific examples online already that you can kind of look at for inspiration. So I've only covered a couple values, but there'll be more in the PDF guide that we send you. So a couple ideas on how you can show your values. So for example, you want to showcase that you have really strong learning and development. A fun way to do it would be through a video montage, doing a quick interview style video where you're asking different graduates. Say you ask 5 graduates and you say in 30 seconds, what's the best thing you learned this week, and get them to quickly explain it. Those are really fun. These interview content is super popular. We actually do them a lot on our own socials. And I think in Australia, or actually in New Zealand, our best performing video for that one was, I think it hit like 1.2 million views and like 300,000 likes. And it was interview style content, interviewing a grad, asking about what they studied. So these types of interview content's just super popular online. Another thing is simple, like Instagram stories. Just show the behind the scenes of what's happening on the learning day. You can see some examples on the side here. And then if you want to show your mentorship, I think a great idea would actually be doing an Instagram Q&A with a senior in the company. So, the week before, do a Instagram story saying, hey, we're having Paul from the partnerships team, VP partnerships, and he's going to be answering some questions. If you're a grad or you're an intern, feel free to shoot us a message and ask any questions that you would like us to ask Paul, and then have him jump on, have him explain those answers, and really show all your viewers that there's a strong connection between like graduates and people just starting out to people high in the leadership team and whatnot. And then a couple of ideas is like share a quote from the graduates on the best advice they got from their mentors. There are so many different ways you could twist these values into social media content. It's actually crazy. And then another couple ideas is impactful work. So I think day in the life content is a really good way of showing the work. We've done a couple and they've been really popular because you can kind of show how they start their day. You can show any projects that they work on throughout the day. You can have the graduates get into what they're learning or what they're really enjoying. So it's quite insightful, and it's great for anyone who's watching it and thinking about joining the company, because they can really see like, oh, wow, they're doing.
Hey, Emily might have just dropped out for a second. This is the society we live in. And so yeah, I'll just sort of continue on her behalf. But what she was chatting about was, yeah, just work life.
Oh, sorry, Shaq.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Emily, I think you might have dropped out for a second. So
Oh, okay. That's all
right.
good.
You were
I think I'm
just
back now.
speaking about, yeah, you're talking about work-life balance and perks.
Yeah, work-life balance. So a good way would be to showcase that you allow work from home. And the way to do that would be a quick little video being like, hey, do you guys like work-life balance? Do you guys like work from home, or do you like work from office? And interview about 5 or so grads and cut that into a really short video. That's a sneaky way of showing that you offer those perks. Another one is an office tour. Get the graduates to show where their favorite spot in the office is. You could take a photo of it. You could do a Instagram story, a video post even. And then another thing is like, if you have any sort of team days, yoga days, lunch, picnics, you celebrate Valentine's Day, anything, you could easily take a photo of that, post it to Instagram, LinkedIn, or you could even take a couple videos, put it all together, add an audio on top, potentially a trending audio, and then post it to a platform like TikTok. So you can show off a lot of your perks quite easily. And the next thing I want to get into is actually, so the challenges that employer branding helps combat, and why utilizing social media for employer branding is going to help with particular issues that I know quite a few of you would struggle with. So I'll pass it over to Shek now to go into this.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So you could see a couple different things on the screen, and this is from the Australian Association of Graduate Employers. And we've seen common trends across sort of different regions in the APAC too. Now, I want to do something a little bit different. I want you to raise your hand if you haven't had to face competition for grads, if you haven't struggled with diversity targets, if you hadn't had a candidate renege on an offer and change their mind at a later date, or if you haven't struggled with keeping graduates or early careers warm between the offer date to when they start. Now, if you haven't been through any of that, please raise your hand. I'm really curious. Oh wow, you actually had some hands raised. Single digits though, out of almost 300 people. So that's really interesting. Oh no, that was up from before. That's one. Okay. That's super interesting. So one out of 300 hasn't faced any of these issues or challenges before. Now, the reason I bring this up is we know that across the board that these sort of challenges are faced by employers. But if we sort of look at the next slide, by developing a, if you want to jump to the next slide, Emily. Yeah, so a lot of these issues are faced. Sorry, one slide back. I might have jumped the gun there. But yeah, as we look at these issues, they're quite common in the industry. I mean, to put into perspective, out of 300 participants on this call today, we had one person raise their hand for not having faced those issues. And so the impact of building a positive employer brand, it's not just about competition, it's actually about finding an alignment, is probably the best way to look at it. Because you could be a top brand for certain values and compete for certain type of degree types, for example. But by having a strong presence and brand across social media, whilst their students are in university, all the way through to the tail end when they graduate, it really gives you time to build that brand. Because I think on the previous slide and near the start of the event, we talked about how 98% of college students, they use social media every day. But then if we look at the tail end of that, when it comes to finding jobs, only 9% of them rated using social media to find jobs. So what it's saying is a lot of this is actually subconscious because we look at it day to day, every day. And so when it comes to finding graduates through talent attraction, it's not just, okay, I'm hiring now, I need to do something. It's also about building something long term to help with talent attraction, to help with the quality of candidate and making sure there's an alignment. And most importantly, if they're very excited about starting a career at your organization, it's about reducing that renege or having to keep warm because they know about you, they care, they actually want to be there, and they've been cultivated over time. So really strong employer branding gets ideal candidates. Because if you look at reneges, for example, if your acceptance rate happens or a candidate accepts an offer, they are very likely to go onto your social media brand and check out other grads. And if there's no graduates and they're about to start, what does that really communicate to them? It leaves them guessing as a way. And they're still going to look for information because information is at the fingertip of their hands. But if they Google a possible grad, let's say, and there's no content that we provide, they'll end up on a forum, whether who knows there's accurate information or not. So it'll really help with that. And a couple other factors that we walked through earlier on. I think the other one that's really interesting, if you jump to the next slide, Emily, is diversity targets. So thanks to social media, building an online presence means that we can put out a little bit more of what we're looking for, even if we've got it, maybe not to the numbers that we'd like it to, which is great, and that's an organic start. But some of the other ways that we can do this is we can put some budget behind it. Instead of organic social media, which is what we've been speaking about so far, we could look into paid social media and targeted social media. And this is really interesting because let's say my experience as a student, I went to a university careers day event, which is great, but is the type of employer I'm looking for there, or is the type of student you're looking for there or not? It's a bit of a mixed bag. Whereas if we look at paid social media, what that means is we can target very specific locations, very specific degrees, and make sure they are the audience that sees your ad. So hypothetically, if I'm, let's say, looking for a candidate that's a female in STEM and I'm looking in Toowoomba, which is an hour west of Brisbane here in Queensland, Australia, we can just show it straight to them because we know that's the area that we're trying to work and target. So it's very specific where that shows up. And so with that being said, I might pass on to Emily to show a couple of case studies of this.
Thanks, Jack. So, yeah, I mean, paid social media is a very powerful tool. And I think diversity is one of the biggest things that it can help achieve. There's a lot of things you can do with diversity on organic social media, for example. I'll just cover that briefly. So, one thing that was very popular as an example at this mid-year was the Barbie release. I don't know if anyone watched the Barbie movie, but if you were online and on social media when it happened, you would know potentially that there was a massive Barbie trend. All these women were posting online saying the day in the life of an engineer Barbie, the day in the life of a law Barbie, the day in the life of, they were posting their career and making it Barbie themed, which was awesome. And that would have been such a great way to tap into the female audience if you were an engineering firm with a TikTok or a business consulting firm with a LinkedIn account who was going to do a post on your law firm Barbies. Obviously, just you'd have to polish it up so it didn't sound controversial or anything like that. But that was a really great way of targeting females. And when you combine creative content like that, so creative content like the Barbie trend, and you combine it with paid marketing, or really when you combine any sort of content with paid marketing, you can achieve these sort of results. So with paid marketing, this is an example of geo-targeting. And for this client, they were focused on targeting New South Wales. So you can see all their traffic is the blue, and then their ads traffic was the orange. So the ads it really contributed to pushing more people from New South Wales onto their job listing and whatnot. And you can always hope that people will come across you organically from New South Wales, but if there is an instance where it's not really happening, then paid marketing is really a great way to ensure you're reaching the New South Wales demographic. And the next example is actually gender, which I think is a big one. So this one was a campaign where we were targeting women in specific. So you can see that there was, more than 50% more of the impressions were by women. And this was also I'll just check, this was I believe it was for an engineering client as well. So this is a very big challenge in, the engineering industry, getting female applicants. So that's another example. And pairing that with, for example, the day in the life of a Barbie engineer video content and boosting that out would have been such a powerful combo. The other thing is overall traffic. So here's an example of a general branding awareness campaign. You can see the blue is a big spike on the day that the campaign did really well and took off. So yes, you can always do social media marketing with a specific goal in mind, specific person you want to meet. You can actually target by location, gender, interest. I could target someone in Queensland. I could target someone who's in Singapore. I could target someone in Manila. I could target female. I could target males. I could target, you could target non-binary too. You could target specific interests. So say I want them to be interested in pets, I could target that. It is so specific. It is so specific. And the other example that I'm just going to pass over to Shek is some of our examples of the social media boost. So this is something that I run. And while a lot of while organic marketing is so strong and so powerful, and everyone should be doing organic social media marketing, sometimes you do want to do that boost. You do want to push your social media presence up a little bit, and paid marketing is a great tool to do so because you can control it. You can control the creatives you put out. You can control the people you reach, and this is something that we actually offer as a package. So I'll pass it over to Shek to cover it.
Yeah, thanks, Emily. And I saw quite a few questions about this in the chat of, based on my sector, there's quite a lot of rules and red tape or restrictions around certain platforms. With Prosper, we have worked with clients in those spaces, so we know how to, I guess, effectively position that. This is not for the score. This is just to give you a few case studies. But if you do have any inquiries, I've got a QR code to my LinkedIn and my email there. If you're already working with myself or you don't work with Prosper, feel free to reach out if you've got any questions. Happy to try and help. For others, feel free to reach out to your account manager and they can speak to you further about the insights of this. But Just thought I'd share that because I saw quite a few comments around based on industry. So this example is for someone in defense, quite a lot of restrictions and things like that when it comes to social media. And we were able to run a hyper specific campaign, location based, gender based, degree based as well. And yeah, they performed quite well, quite a tight turnaround for this. So that's one example. If you want to jump onto the next slide, Emily, thank you. This is a example for a banking and financial services client. And for them, this was location and gender specific, which was really effective for them. Also quite a tight turnaround on this one. This is only a 2.5 week campaign from memory. And so this is just another example. And then finally, we've got another one here for the health sector. This was quite a large scale campaign and yeah, very much all across the country, but just mainly looking for healthcare sort of degrees. So you can see some of the results there. But again, if you have further questions about this, this is just to mainly show you the power of paid social media, whether you have the capabilities internally or if you need help with that, feel free to reach out. More than happy to support. Reach out to your current account manager if you're already working with Prospool, or if you have any questions, feel free. My details are there to just send me an email. I'm more than happy to chat. But Emily, anything you want to add on before we move into the Q&A section?
Thanks, Jack. Nothing for me to add on other than at the end of before we jump into the Q&A, so in a couple of days, you'll all receive an email with the recording, the slides, and a guide. And in the guide, there's going to be multiple links to examples of content. So I think make sure you definitely check out the guide if you're struggling to think about what sort of content to put out on social media and struggling to think about how to match it to your values. The guide will actually mention a couple different values and give examples and links to examples in it. So definitely keep an eye on your emails for that one, because I think that will be really helpful in giving you inspiration and ideas on where to go with social media. But let's jump into the Q&A then. So if anyone has any questions, pop them in the chat and we will try and get to as many of them as we can. So just comment the questions and then we'll pick out as many as we can. And if there's any that I can't get to today, sorry, I was going to say, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, or you can shoot me an email, and I'm more than happy to answer any other questions that you guys may have, or Shek as well.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, Emily, whilst we were going through some of the strategies earlier, there were a couple questions that came in the Q&A box, if you can see, and I think there's an interesting one there around how do you balance social media for early careers branding with your marketing department who do it generally. So how do we do it for early careers specifically? Maybe if you've got any tips around that.
Yeah, thanks, Jack, for putting it out. So I think this one depends on your capacity. There are a lot of companies who have teams and they'll actually run multiple channels. So they'll have, for example, you'll have a life at Prospool, which is the one where you post purely careers content, purely anything for future employees or graduates and whatnot. And I think that's a really great way do it if you have capacity. So if you can, I would always recommend having a separate account and posting the day in the life content or any roles you have available. But if that's not possible, which it likely will be because that is quite tedious and that is a lot of work, then balancing it out with the marketing team, a good way to do that is thinking about content that may be interesting and beneficial to them as well. So for example, office tours is a good one. It's a bit hard to say because it does depend on the platform you're using. But for example, if you were an engineering firm and you're trying to post some careers content on there, then I would think about posting maybe an office tour or quotes from your graduates, and just making sure you're spreading it out a little bit. So not posting it all at once, but probably 2 posts a week or something like that. And I think that should be something that you can balance with your marketing team as well. But if you can have a separate account, that is perfect. But it's probably quite challenging and hard for most of you guys with the custody.
Hmm.
Cool.
Emily, I'm seeing some common questions, and there's a few different ways it's been asked, but the crux of it is every employer is going to have different,
Mhm.
I guess, dimensions or criteria for who they want to advertise to. So whether it be
Yeah.
a age demographic, I've seen a Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander question from a DNI perspective and targeting them. Um, how
Mhm.
detailed can it be, Emily, if you want to chat on that? Because there's every employer is going to be so different.
So we're talking about targeting through paid marketing or through organic marketing?
Through paid marketing, and yeah, if you can touch on organic marketing, can it do that, or is
Okay,
that a
cool.
paid?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So paid marketing, absolutely. The some ways you might target, for example, like First Nations people would be through keywords that they might search. So that's, I mean, you'd have to have a great performance marketer who can actually do some keyword research and figure out what kind of things that demographic is searching for online, and then you would include that in your ad targeting so that hopefully when they're searching for something, they also get targeted with that ad. But organically, a good way to also do it is actually to follow accounts online on social media already that post content for them. So what I would do is if I was targeting First Nations people, I would actually follow any student societies I can find on from universities and First Nations student societies, follow all their accounts on multiple platforms, watch what they're posting, any content, is there any trends, is there any topics they're engaging with that I can then use and showcase on my like company page and whatnot, and also engage with their accounts. Can I then reach out to them and maybe do a collaboration post? Could I organize to do a joint post on how a joint video post on how First Nations are accommodated in our graduate program? So you can do it organically as well. And that's just through finding what the target audience would already be following online and just mimicking.
That's really helpful. Can see
Cool.
there's quite
I
a
do it
few other
all the time.
questions.
Yeah, I do it all the time. I myself follow a lot of student societies and a lot of TikTok student university influencers. So anytime a student influencer posts a really good trend, I go, hey, we need to do that for Prosperl, and then we use that. So that's how you can do it. It's all about seeing what they follow and consume, and then using that because that's what they're going to genuinely enjoy.
Mm. And there's another one here. I think this is a really interesting one around keep warm strategies with social media because
Hmm.
for a lot of clients and those in this space, there's a big lag time between when their offer is made to when the student or graduate would start. Any tips around that with social media?
For social media, um, so this is for graduates who have already accepted an offer.
Yep.
Okay. This one probably is a bit more specific, a bit more challenging, but I would say that obviously there's not really going to be any specific social media things that we're doing for them, but just in general, like keeping up your social media presence. So if they're keeping up your Instagram stories, if you're doing team days, like making sure you're posting that, get them excited for what will be their future next year. If they're following you on Instagram, which they could very likely be, and they're seeing you haven't posted anything, there's no stories, there's no posts, nothing, just one post that the graduate applications are open, and I mean, they're not really getting to see what their future is going to be like. But if you're posting stories, they see the team events, they see some of the team already, they're getting excited. That's keeping them very excited. I'm guarantee they'll be kept warm from that.
Mm. And to add on to that as well, I've let's call them Client X. They had a really interesting strategy. So what they got their grads to do once they accepted an offer was update their LinkedIn that this had happened. They'd send them a little, thank you package or welcome package per se, and then they get the cohort to interact with each other on LinkedIn and social media and try and getting them to engage early. So even organically, if I'm a graduate and I've just follow the LinkedIn page because I've maybe got an offer and you see someone else, oh, I've started and I've accepted a grad position starting next year, and you see your cohort coming in. It's really nice to create that community before you even start your job.
a great point, Shek. And I love that point. That got me thinking even further. If you share with them some sort of graphic or post that they can do on their LinkedIn, so a graphic and maybe a templated caption that they can post online, that would be really awesome in helping them, start being active online, showing that they're working for your company in the future.
Mm. There's another really interesting question from an anonymous attendee, but it's a good question. I think I've had this comment from a lot of clients that I've worked with in this space where social media, particularly I think TikTok is what I've heard from clients, is viewed kind of like the Wild West, where, oh, what do we do with our brand and what happens? Is there a brand risk? So I've with Prospel specifically, when we promote our clients, we actually do it with our branding suggesting a certain type of student to link back to your page on Prospel a lot of the times. And Emily, feel free to chime in here, but that's been really helpful with these, I guess, riskier industries or risk averse industries that might not want to adopt social media as early on, to just outsource it to Prospel early on so that I guess we in some ways carry the risk. And by showing them the results afterward, it's like, oh, wow, social media works. It's not just a crazy idea. And it's helped clients get buy-in to start taking more initiative internally too, because sometimes the willingness is there from our clients, but it's just a bit challenging internally. So if you have questions about that, feel free to reach out to your account manager or myself, and happy to chat through how we've supported other clients in that space.
Awesome. I think you covered that question, Shek. But I definitely see that. Yeah, it definitely can be challenging navigating social media. So sometimes a good way is to just be able to show how it's been done well, potentially through Prospel or some other sort of service, and then be able to bring that as an example, like sort of like the case studies we showed you before, and that's very convincing. Cool. Shek, do you see any more questions to pick out?
I think probably the final one, I think there's some questions here around insights about driving impressions to clicks to applications and what things might drive that. Any insights you have to share from your experience, Em?
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So, okay, let me try explain this as concisely as I can. So impressions on social media, that is putting out content that people find valuable. So tying it into the three themes, anything that they feel like they're getting value for, they're more likely to engage with. The more someone engages with your post, the more likely it's going to be shared further and pushed out by the platform to reach more people. So that's how you can try get more impressions. Make sure that your post is actually valuable in some sort of way. Or the other good way is, and this is usually through like the video content method, is actually jumping on trends. So trends on social media are extremely powerful. We've had a couple trends that basically took us from, basically they've gone from like 0 views to 2 million views. I think that's our highest viewed trending post. So being able to jump on a trend and tie it into what you do is amazing. We did a trend, I think, a couple months ago that it was 2 million posts, and we managed to tie in how Prospel can actually help students get graduate jobs, and that was really powerful. So trends, and then with clicks, that's what you would do for CTA. So CTA is a call to action. And what you can do is at the end of your video, be like, make sure you click the link in our description, or you could put it in the caption. You could also put it at the bottom of at the bottom of a LinkedIn post, you put a link to where you want them to go to next. But just try not to make it too long, because you just want to keep it quick, short, to the point. And then initiate applications. Oh, so that's actually trying to get people to apply. So for that one, I think it's all about that's focusing more on the content. So it's making sure that the content you're putting out is good, engaging, shows is targeting the right audience. And then if it's good content, it's targeting the right audience, it's showing off the company in the way that these potential applicants want to see. then that's going to work on increasing your application conversions. Hopefully I answered that as concisely as I could. It's a big question and there's a lot to cover in that one.
Yeah, I thought I might have opened a can of worms when I said that, but that's okay. You summarized it really well.
I will quickly answer Spotify. Spotify is actually one that we haven't touched on, but absolutely, podcasts are massive. A lot of people consume podcasts nowadays. So I think if you can find a way to test out Spotify, I would definitely recommend it. Another one is also Snapchat. I know my sister in university uses Snapchat all the time. It's ridiculous. So if you can explore Snapchat, that's another one to go into. But we just didn't cover those ones today because we wanted to focus on the 3 kind of best ones to get started with. Awesome. That's probably it then, Shaq, is it? Or any last questions you see that you want to answer?
No, let's call it a day. I think we've dropped quite a few, have to jump in meetings and things like that. So
Yeah.
any of you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to Emily or myself. Happy to help out. Just again, as a reminder, this will be uploaded as a blog, a video, and you will get the slides too. And so some of the things we mentioned around ideas and strategies, there'll be a lot of them in that slide deck. So this will be shared to you. Yeah. So just look to finalize that, and yeah, have a great rest of the day. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and feel free to reach out to either of us. It was awesome to chat to you guys, and I'm very excited to hear how everyone goes with the social media learnings they took away. Awesome. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.